So this class, in this class we're going to talk about JUnit framework. Okay, this is going to be JUnit framework class. So just a second, please. JUnit is a testing framework. JUnit it is actually called as a unit testing framework. When I say unit testing framework, so what does it means? Yes. So is anyone familiar with this unit testing for testing developers code? Okay. Testing smallest part of a code as a unit. Okay, just a minute. So I'll give you people a definition which you'll find it in online. You can just make a note of this. Unit testing means unit testing is a software development process in which the smallest testable parts of an application called units are individually and independently scrutinized for proper operation. Unit testing is often automated but can be done manually as well. Okay, yes, please make a note of it. This is one of the definitions which you'll see in an online, but I'll explain it further. So here, when I say smallest unit, what does that means? Yes, when we talk about the smallest unit, so what does that means? It says, you see, this unit testing is the process of testing smallest unit individuals or independently, individually or independently. Yes, method. That's right. In Java, smallest unit of code which we can test independently or individually is method. Method is smallest unit here. which can be tested individually and independently. Okay, method is smallest unit which can be tested individually and independently. Yes. So now, for this unit testing, JUnit is provided. It's a framework, I can say. JUnit, what is it? It's a unit testing framework. You know, it is not provided by Java people. That means your Sun Microsystems or Oracle didn't provide it. So it's a third-party framework. Okay, but it is developed using Java and we use it in Java. When I say framework here, that means it provides a lot of reusable components which will simplify the process of testing for us. Without using this unit testing framework like JUnit also, still we can, uh, test the code. Okay, still we can test the code, but we have to, manually write each and everything on our own. Okay, yes. So in order to simplify the process of testing, this framework is provided. Okay, yes. Now there is one more framework which is similar to JUnit called as TestNG. Okay, but I'm not going to teach you people this TestNG. It is also say based on the same concepts, but if you got some time, please go through it. Okay, TestNG, JUnit and TestNG. These are two unit testing frameworks which are available in Java. Yes. So now let's see how to when what it was introduced, the year is not at all important. Okay, yes, earlier people used to do it manually. That is the only thing which you need to know here. That's it. So JUnit, it is being there for a long time. No one will ask you the dates. Okay, now first of all, I'll create a simple Java project here. Say sample JUnit project. I'm just creating a normal Java project. So here, say I got a class. Called as arithmetic, let's say. In this class, let's say I got a method called as add, which takes two numbers, two integers, and we'll return the sum of that integers, let's say. So now this is a method, and I would like to test it using JUnit framework. You know, Eclipse IDE provides you very good support for testing purpose. Eclipse IDE provides you very good support for using this JUnit framework. Yes. Now, generally, in order to write this testing code, we have to write the code to test this method. Now I can say, you know, in order to write the test code, we are going to use a class which is called as a test case. This is the terminology which we'll use. Okay, generally the the testing code, in which method you'll write the code. Okay, sorry, in which class you'll write the code, that class is called as a test case. Okay, the class in which you'll write the testing code is called as a test case. And you know, the method in which we write that testing code, actual testing code, it is called as a test method. We say it is a test method. So in order to write, okay, any uh, unit testing code, first of all you'll define a class which is called as a test case. You'll define a class, it is called as a test case. And then in that class you'll define a method. In that method you'll write that code, testing code, which is called as a test method. Okay, so let's write a test case here to test this add method. So if you're using Eclipse IDE, so this is pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, so it is not at all complicated, so very simple and straightforward. Let's see how it works here. So just select this class, arithmetic class, which you got here, and right click on it. Right click on it, select that class, that source file, the arithmetic.java file is there. No? Select that source file and then right click on it. So once you do that, you see, you'll find that you'll have a new option here, right? Under the new, you should see this JUnit test case option. Under the new, you should see new JUnit test case option here. Yes. So select this option, JUnit test case. I can say it is a wizard. JUnit test case is a wizard which is going to help us to create the test case. Okay, it helps us to create the test case, I can say. Yes. So I'll select this option, JUnit test case. Once I select the JUnit test case, now you see you got this wizard now, which will help us to create the test case. We have to configure the test case details here. Now, JUnit framework, you'll find that it is available in two different versions. JUnit framework, it is available in two different versions. Okay, yes. JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. But as of now, I can say that JUnit 3 is a older version. So nowadays, people are not using JUnit 3. Instead, JUnit 4 is used. Okay, so it is asking us which version of JUnit you want to select. So here, the JUnit 4 is selected. That's it. And now that test case will be added to this package math com.math. But what I'll do is here, I'll change it to com.math.test. Yes. Okay. Now, what is the class name? Arithmetic test. The class name is arithmetic test here. Okay. This is a test case. Arithmetic test is a class. We call it as a test case. The class name is arithmetic test. You can give any name, but make sure that you give relevant names. Now you see, if someone reads this code, read this class name, they can understand that, okay, this is a test case for your arithmetic class. It indicates that this is a test case for arithmetic class. Okay. So next, what are these method steps? We'll talk about it later. Now, if you come down, the last thing which you'll see here, you see, just above this next buttons and all, you got this. Just follow my cursor. You'll find class under test. The class under test. So which class is under the test here? Arithmetic class. You see that class details are provided. Now you can click on next. Okay, just click on next. Now once we do that, here you see the Eclipse IDE, it has got the capability to identify the methods which we have defined in that arithmetic class. You see, it is not only identifying the methods from the arithmetic class, but also from the super class. You see, arithmetic class as of now, it is not extending any other class, right? You know, by default, Java makes this class extends object. If the class is not extending any other class, you know, by default it will be made to extend object class. Just a second. Yes, Java will make this class extends object class, I can say. Yes. So now here you see now which method you want to test here. You can just check that method or select that method. I want to test this add method. You see, I've selected it. Okay. Yes. So you see on the top it says select methods for which the test method stubs should be created. It says the test method stubs should be created for which method. Okay. Yes. Now I'll click on finish. Okay, I'll click on finish. I've selected that add method. I'll click on finish. You see, as I told you people, JUnit is officially not part of your Java, programming language. It is not part of your Java programming language. So basically, it is a third-party framework, I can say. Now, if you want to work with JUnit framework, then you need JUnit libraries. Okay, you will need JUnit libraries. Yes. So here, the Eclipse ID is asking whether to add JUnit libraries to this project because we need them, right? So it is asking whether to add JUnit libraries to this project or not. So we need it definitely, otherwise you can't work with this JUnit framework without libraries. So Eclipse ID will help us to acquire that JUnit libraries. Okay, I'll click on OK. That's it. Now you see, apart from the standard system libraries here in the build path, you see on the left side, if you go through the project here once, you'll find that you got standard system libraries, and apart from that, you got JUnit libraries. You see JUnit.jar file. Yes. So it's a JUnit library itself. A library means, it is nothing but set of predefined classes which are provided here. They're nothing but set of predefined classes, I can say. Yes. Okay, fine. Now we got this class here, you see, arithmetic test. So what is arithmetic test here? It is basically a test case. That's right. It's a test case. Now, you see, we don't need to make this class extends any predefined class or implement any predefined interface here. Okay, just it's normal Java class. That's it. But how it becomes a test case? You see, in this class, you will define a method in which you will write the testing code, and that method will be annotated with @test, @test. And general naming practice here, okay, you'll find that this method in which you'll write the test code, the test method, I can say, the test method name always starts with tester followed by the method which is being tested here, followed by the name of the method which is being tested. So this method, test method now, so we are using it to test which class? We are using it to test the add method. Sorry, which method? Add method. We want to test add method which is defined in the arithmetic class. You see, you got the add method here. So in order to test that add method, now we are defining this method whose name is test add. So that's the reason why you see this name, the name of this method is test followed by the name of the method which is under the test now. Add, but A is in caps. This is the naming convention which we follow in Java. Yes, generally if you have more than one word, okay, in the method name or a class name, always the second word, first character will be in uppercase itself. Second word, first character. Always, all the consecutive words, whichever words you'll have, the first character will be in uppercase. Except the first word, the consecutive words which follows this first words, yes, first word, all those words, the first character should be in uppercase. Yes, we call it as a camelback notation. Camelback notation. Always the method names should be in small case. Whereas you see the class names will be in uppercase. The first letter of the class name will start with uppercase. But again, if you got more than one word in the class also, you see the following words, always the first character will be in uppercase itself. Okay, yes. So now we got this method. And this is annotated with @test. Now this is annotation, um, which highlights that this is a test method. That means the method in which you got the test code. It indicates that this is a test method in which you got the test code. Yes. So this annotation here, is it part of your Java API? Is it part of your standard Java API? What do people think? So actually it is not part of your standard Java API. It is actually from the JUnit framework. It is from JUnit framework. Yes. So now you see this is the package org.junit.test. Yeah, fine. Next, now we have to write that test case. Sorry, testing code. We want to test that add method, right? So I'll call that. Sorry. First of all, I'll instantiate that class arithmetic class, so that we can call that method add. Now we'll pass two values here to this method. And generally, we'll get the result, right? So we call it as actual result. The result, whatever the result which is written by this method, so we call it as the actual result here. Okay. It is called as actual result. Now what is expected result here? What is expected result? Expected means, according to our understanding, the method which we have defined, what it is supposed to return, what it is supposed to return 30. That is the expected result, we say. Okay, so we are expecting 30. And what will be the actual result? Actual result means the result which is actually written by that method when it executes. Yes. So now we have to compare it. We have to check that. So for that, we got a method assert equals here. So expected result is 30, and actual result, you have to pass these two values here. Okay, and let me do one thing here. Okay, yeah, the expected result is 30, and the actual result we are passing it here. Now assert equals, where exactly this method is defined. Okay, all of you concentrate here, important. So where is this method assert equals defined here? Yes, what do people think? So when I say method, it should belong to a particular class, right? When I say a method, it should definitely it belongs to some class, of course. It belongs to some class. Yeah, you know, assert is not the package name itself. It's a class. Have you noticed it? There is something different here in this import statement. What is it? In the import statement, if you notice, if you keenly observe, you'll find that we are using static word. Actually, this type of imports are called as static imports. This type of imports are called as static imports. Okay, I'll comment it for a while. Okay, so I'll comment it. That means we are not using that static import statement. So usually I'm supposed to do this. Usually I'm supposed to do this. So I'm supposed to import that assert class. Assert is a class in Java, sorry, in JUnit framework. It is provided by JUnit framework. Uh, in this class, we got this static method called as assert equals. In this class, we got a static method. Here, in order to call the static method, we use the class name. This is the general practice. But you will find that each time you want to call that method assert equals, you need to use the class name. Always the static methods, in order to call them, we use the class name. Okay, we should use the class name. Okay, I'll delete this. I don't want to use the class name here explicitly. We have another option. That is where the static import comes into the picture. So to import all the static methods of a class, we can do this. To import all the static methods of the class, we can do this. Okay. So now what happens? Now we don't need to use that class name explicitly to call the static methods of the assert class now. Okay. Now we did a static import so that we don't need to call, sorry, we don't need to use that class name to call the method. Got this point? You see? Now without using the class name, I can call that method. Okay. So hope this is clear for you people. Can I have yes or no? Okay, good. Hope everyone got it. Yes. But there is a problem with the static imports. There is a problem with static imports. What is it? What is the problem with the static imports? The problem with the static imports, I can say that, you see, as of now, you will be able to import that class, you can happily work with it, not at all a problem. But what if I want to import another class? Same way, I want to do a static import for another class here. Then what? You see, maybe you can import it, but the problem is there will be an ambiguity for us. If you make a static import for more than one class, now it will be difficult for us to understand that method belongs to which class. Highly ambiguity, right? Highly ambiguous. So they are not readable. Highly ambiguous, right? A particular method, it belongs to which class, it will be difficult to understand. You got the point, all of you? So that code which we write will be not readable. Yeah, difficult to read such code. Understand, difficult to understand. A particular method belongs to which class. That's the reason why, static import concept is not used much. Yes. Okay, fine. Now, coming back to this discussion here, you see, you'll find that the assert equals takes the first parameter, that is nothing but the expected value. The first parameter is expected value here. Okay. And the second parameter is the actual value, which is written by the method. That's it. Okay. So now it will compare these two values, and if it finds that if the two values are same, then it assumes that okay, there is no issue with the method. So method is behaving as expected. So there is no issue. But if the expected value, if it deviates from the actual value, if it is different from the actual value, then there is an issue. If expected result is different from the actual value, then I can say there will be an issue. Yes. That means the method is not working according to the expectations here. Yes. Okay. So now we have written this test case and we got the test method here. So let's try to test this code. How will you test this code? What to do? Simply select this class, right click on it. You'll find run as, sorry, not class, select the project itself. You see, right click on it. You got run as option, right? You'll find run as JUnit here. Run as JUnit. Yes. Okay. I'll select this option, run as JUnit. Now you see the Eclipse ID. So when we select that option, run as JUnit, it will simply it will search for the test cases. If there are any test cases in this class, it will search for the test case. If it finds it, simply it executes it. You see, you should see this green bar here, which indicates that nothing went wrong. Runs one by one. Errors 0, failures 0. Yes. So you see which class has executed here, arithmetic test, and which method is executed particularly in that class, test add method has executed. Yes. This way we can run a test case. So what if something is wrong here? With that method, then you won't get the expected um, results, right? So in that case, the asset equals method throws an error. It throws error. When I say error, I'm talking about the error class. Always it throws this error here. We say it is an assertion error. Okay, assertion error. Yes, assertion error will be thrown. You got something called as assertion error that will be thrown. So which cannot be handled. We don't handle errors, right? Yes, assertion error will be thrown here. That's it. Okay. So I'll show you people. For suppose, let's say the expected value instead of 30, I'll make it 40. Actually expected is 30 itself, but just say we'll do this. Yes. This time, so if I run this code, we'll get an assertion error. Okay. Yes. You see, this time you'll get an error. You see java.lang. Assertion error. You'll get this assertion error here. Yes. So what statement you're expecting to write here? Yes. Why we need to write a statement? Sorry. No, not needed. The framework itself is completely displaying the stack trace and all. You don't need anything else here. Okay. You'll get the complete details about the error. You see, it shows every details. Fine. So this is how you can write a test case. Okay. So far what we did, is it clear for you people? If so, we'll move on. We'll carry forward our discussion. Okay, so hope this is clear. Now, I have a question for you people. What if I want to run this test several times with different inputs? I would like to run this test several times with different inputs. So in that case, what you're going to do? So for suppose I want to run this test case four times. I want to run this test case four times. Four times. Okay. Execute test case four times. So for each test, how many input values do we need? Number of input parameter input values. How many input values do we need for each test? How many input values do we need for each test? How many input values you will need here? Two. I can say we need three input values here. One will two values will be two values for the method and one for expected value to specify that expected value. Altogether three. Okay. We need three input values for each test. To execute each test, you need three input values. Okay. So let's see how to pass these three values. How do we write the code? You see, this is where the framework will help us. So it will help us to automate this process for us. Yeah. Just a second, please. Just a second. Sorry. Okay, fine. So now we need three input values to test that method each time. That means we need four set of such values here. Four sets of three input values. Sorry, three sets of four input values here. Yes, three sets of four input values. How do we supply these values? For that, okay, I'm sorry, four sets, okay, yeah, four sets of three input values. Yeah, four sets of three input values. Now, how do we supply them? So through a method, we are going to do that. I'll define a method which returns collection of object array here. Method name can be anything. I'll call it as get values. Here, I'll create an object array like this. We'll configure the values here, input values. I'll explain this just a minute. Okay, say in this object array now, in this object array, we got four sub-arrays. It's an array of arrays. You got four sub-arrays. Each sub-array has got three elements in it, right? Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'll convert this array into a collection here. Array start as list, pass that objects array. That's it. You can return it. So what happens now? The arrays class as list method will take that object array and will read the elements. What are the elements here? They are nothing but intern arrays itself. So they will be added to a collection object as elements again. Each array will be added as an element to the collection object, and that object reference is written here. That's it. It's a collection of object arrays now. Simply, we're converting this two-dimensional array into collection of object arrays. Okay. So now that collection which is written, that collection object which is written here, the size of that collection object will be what? What will be the size of the collection object? No. This is right. As I told you people, only that integer arrays will be read from that two-dimensional array, and they will be added to the collection instead. In turn, it's a collection of integer arrays here, just integer arrays, where each integer array holds three values for each test. Yeah, so the size of the collection object will be 4 here. The collection object reference, which is written by this method, will be 4. Now we need to ask the framework to use this method to get that values. Okay, so framework has to take the values from this method now. This framework should understand that this method returns a collection in which you got that input values for test. So how will you specify the details to the framework? Use this annotation, parameterized. Use this annotation, sorry, parameters, not parameterized, parameters. Parameters. Once you place this annotation parameters here, now it indicates that this method, it returns the input values for the test. Always make sure that you define this method as static. Okay, it should be a static method. Okay, so next, now we need to declare the variables here. Say input 1, input 2, and expected value. I'll declare three variables, and you know what, here I'm going to use that variables here. Input 1, input 2. This time we are not going to hard code this values, input 1 and input 2, and the expected result also will not hard code it. Yes, you see here I'm using that variables input 1, input 2, and expected value. So these three variables will be initialized by the framework, JNet framework. For initializing that three variables, we'll supply a parameterized constructor to the framework. So we have to provide a parameterized constructor to the framework here. Okay, yes. So I'm adding a parameterized constructor. You see? So framework is going to use this parameterized constructor. So, you know, one important thing here, the order is very important. The order is very important. So the variables, in which order we have declared the variables, okay, especially the parameters here in the constructor, I'm sorry, the order of the parameters which you got here in the constructor, the order of the parameters which you got here in the constructor. So this is very important. So in this order itself, we'll add the values to the array. In that same order, we have to add the values in the array. The first variable is input 1, The second variable is input 2. So for the first variable, we are passing this value here in the array. At 0th index, you'll have the input 1 value. At 1 index, you'll have input 2 value. And at third index, you'll have that expected value. You got this, all of you? So this, the order in which you're declaring this parameters here in the constructor, that same order should be used to specify the values for that parameters. Okay, yes. Now, this is it. Now what happens here, you see, the framework will take this collection of object arrays here and it will check the size of that collection. So size will be 4. You'll find that in that collection object you'll have 4 integer arrays. You'll have 4 integer arrays, I can say. So it will take that 4 integer arrays, it takes that size, right? So now the size here, it specifies how many times the framework has to execute the test case. Always the size of the collection helps the framework to understand how many times the test case has to execute. It has to execute the test case. Okay, how many times the test case has to be executed, that is specified by the size of the collection here. So each element in the collection now is a array, integer array, which provides the input values for each test case. Okay, so because the size of the collection here is 4, that means framework understands that it has to execute the test case 4 times. And you see, for each test case, it will take one element from the collection object. What is that element? It's an array. So it will take one array and use the values in that array to initialize these 3 variables which you got here in this order. So it will call this constructor and will pass those 3 values to the constructor so that the variables will be initialized. Once the constructor is executed successfully, you see that values will be initialized. Now that values in turn will be used here in the test method. You see the input 1, input 2 and the expected value. So we're using these 3 values here. Okay, once it is done executing this method, again it will execute the test case. Again it will execute the test case. How? It will take another array from that collection object. It takes another array from the collection object and reads those values, and again it will initialize these 3 variables using this parameterized constructor. So altogether this parameterized constructor will be called 4 times in our case. Okay, because we got 4 sets of values, right? Yes, fine. So but now there is one last thing which we need to do here. Actually this type of testing is called as parameterized test. This type of test is called as parameterized test here. So we need to explicitly mention or specify that this is a parameterized test so that JUnit can execute this test multiple times, okay, with different input values. How will you do that? For that we got this run with parameterized class. That's it. So use this annotation @run with. Use this annotation @run with. And you see, we are passing this class, parameterized class. Parameterized is a class. We have to pass that class name here. So which indicates that we want to we want the JUnit framework to execute a parameterized test. We want the JUnit framework to execute a parameterized test here. That means this test case has to be executed multiple times, several times with different inputs. It has to be executed several times with different inputs here. Yes. Okay, that's it. Now let's run this code. See, sorry, run as JUnit test. Okay. Now on the left side, you can see this runs 4 by 4, and you see which test case is executed here, arithmetic test. You see, each time the test method is executed here accordingly. Test test add method executed how many times? 4 times. Test add method is executed 4 times here. So you can just go through this code once again and let me know if you got any issues or questions. Yes. Any questions? So hope you people got it. Fine. What if I want the JUnit framework to test or execute this test case 5 times? What if I want the JUnit to test this or execute the test method 5 times? So we have to pass another array of values, right? Okay. So this is about parameterized test. This is a parameterized test case. Passing values at runtime it will not be possible here again. Yeah. So and you may need to use tools for that, not this way through the programming. Though it is possible that, but it would be, you know, inappropriate. Instead, there will be tools for that again. Yes. So we can do that. For suppose, I'll show you the next option which you got. You can do that. Instead, you can just configure them in a file and load them. That is also possible. If you got too many values, you can do that. Or we can use the option next. I'm going to show you people. So we can use the streams here for that purpose, but I'll tell you how to use them. What you can do is we can use this methods before and after. I'm going to define a method for suppose test init at the rate before now this method which you got here, I have annotated it with at the rate before. Okay, which indicates that this method has to be executed before each test. Okay, before the test method is invoked, before each test, this method before should execute first. Okay, yes. You see, you got the test method here, right? Before each time, before each time the test method is executed, first of all, the test init method has to be invoked here. The test init method has to be invoked. Yes. Okay. Why do we use this? You can use it now to supply that input values instead of hard coding them. Now we can do this. Okay. Now what you'll do, you can take the input values. Okay. Yes. You can take that input values here. How? So how will you take the input values from the keyboard? You can write that code here and initialize those three variables. How will you take the input values from the keyboard? You can use scanner or input stream reader. Anything is fine. Okay. Yes. So let's say you can open a stream here. And use the stream. Use read method, or else you can add a buffer. Okay, I would like to pass the three values at once, or however you want to take it. That's fine. Let's use this read method. What it does, each time we call the read method, it takes an input value from the keyboard, right? Yes. So look at the Unicode value. Basically, say first I would like to take a input 1. We can just add this code here. Enter a value for input 1, which we'll try to display it here. Now again you have to write the validation code and all, hell lot of code you have to write it here again. So check whether the provided value is a character or an integer value. That is also we need to keep in mind here. Generally we don't do this a lot. Okay, yes, it is not recommended because you people have asked. I'm showing you. Yes. So now let's run this code. You see, now it takes only one character at a time. So it's better to use a read line method. Okay, if you pass two characters, it will simply ignores the first one. Okay, you got 1 2, we are passing 1 2, right? Yes. So it returns the Unicode value here. Instead you can use a read line method for this. Okay, use read line method. You know how to obtain a read line method. Sorry, you know how to obtain that buffer reader object. You can take it, and again accordingly you can just pass multiple characters. You see, each digit is considered as a character, right? So you need an input sorry, buffered reader here. Yes. So this is how it works. You got it. Now we can use this value to initialize that variable. Buffer reader, pass that input stream reader, buffer reader dot call read line method, and read line method returns a string, right? In turn, that string value, so I'll convert it into integer value. Okay, this will be the input value. So directly I'll assign it to that variable. This dot input. Okay, yes, enter value for input 1 variable. Yes, that's it. Okay, now we'll use that value itself if you want. Okay, you can use it, but I won't use it here. You can try later. I'll just show you. I'll display it here. Input 1. I'll declare a temporary variable which will be used within this method. So you can pass 10. You see, you got 10. So first time the test case is executed. Again, sorry. You see, next what I did, I gave a space. So if I press space, even it considers it as a character, right? It considers it as an input itself. So I pressed enter by mistake. So it throws number format exception. So I have to take care of it. Yes. So you'll find that this test case executes 4 times now. And each time you can pass 4 different values. That is also possible. So however you want to do it, you can try this. Okay. So for that you can use before test. So when this before test method will execute, yes, when this before test method will execute, you see this method which is annotated with before test, when it executes, each time before the test method executes. Okay, every time before the test method executes, first of all, the test init method will execute. So why do we need this method? Why do we need this before method here? To initialize any variables, to initialize any values, or or if the test method needs any resources, you need to if you are supposed to you know supply any resources or provide any resources to the test method, we can do it. For example, you see, let's say to test this code, I need to load a file every time. Let's say I need to load a file. Let's say now to write that code to load the file, you can write, you can just write that code here in this test init method to load the files, to obtain a connection, to obtain any other resources. So you can write the code here. Okay. Next, similarly, we got another method here called as after. Before and you'll have after also, which you can think of it as a method to clean up the code. Public void test after test try. Let's say I'll call it as test try. Now, this method will be invoked each time after the test method finishes execution. Each time after the test method finishes execution, the test destroy method will be invoked. Yes. So which can be used to release any resources. For example, let's say we have loaded a file. Okay, we have opened a file, we have read the data, and which was needed for the test method. Let's say, okay, which was needed for the test method. Now, you know what? Here we can close that file once you're done executing the test case. Or let's say even for suppose a connection also. Let's say you'll obtain a database connection. You'll acquire a database connection, and after you're done executing the test, you may need to close it. You can write such code also here in the test to test try method. Okay, yes. So that is how this after and before method works. To initialize any resources needed to test the code. Okay, or to initialize any values which are needed to test the code, you can write such code here in this before method first, and then we can release that resources if there are any, if you have acquired, okay, before the test method started execution. You can release them here in this method, which is about after method. Next, similarly, we got another method called as before class, before class and after class here, before class and after class. So what is the difference between this method now, before and before class method? Before class method, it only executes once, just once. When this method is annotated with before class, it only executes once. Before, you see that test methods or test is initiated, okay, before this test process is initiated, I can say once, only once, this before method will execute, okay. And make sure that it should be a static method here. It should be a static method. Make sure that it should be a static method. Only once. Now let's say your test case, now how many times it executes? 4 times, right? But this before class method will be only invoked once. Before your test method, or before your test case starts execution, okay, before your test case methods they start execution, only once, for once this method will execute. And similarly, after class also, after all the after the you know test case has completed executed successfully, that means the methods, okay, once it it finishes execution completely, okay, after all the 4 tests, you'll find that this after class method will execute at the end. After the test has been successfully executed, this method at last it will execute. That's which method? After class method. That means generally you will use these methods if you have to initialize any resources only once before you initiate this test. Before you initiate this test, if you got any resources which has to be initialized once. For example, here I can take a database connection. Before you initiate this test, maybe in the test method you need a database connection. So that you need a database connection, let's say. So you can acquire the database connection once and use it for testing here. Okay, the test methods may execute a number of times. Each time they may use that connection. And once it is done, once this test case finishes execution, now you can close the connection here. Okay, yes. After after the test method has executed several times, once we are done, you see in our case it executes 4 times. After it executes 4 times successfully, then this after class method will be called at the end. At the end, the after class method will be invoked. That's it. Now here you can write the code to close the connection, database connection, which was used during the testing. Okay, yes. This way we can use before class and after class methods here. So hope you understood the difference between before and before class. What is the difference between before and before class? Now you see, if you consider this example itself, where this is a parameterized test, right? So our test method executes 4 times. Now how many times the before method will execute? How many times the before method will be invoked? 4 times. And after method also 4 times. Whereas before class method, how many times it executes? In our example, only once. No matter how many times the test method executes, the before class method executes only once. Even after class method only once. That's it. That means if you got any resources which have to be initialized one time initialization if it has to be done, okay, in this test case, then you can do it in the before class. Now sometimes you may need to initialize a separate resource or separate values for each test, that you can do it in the before method. Now, just now I gave we saw that example also. Let's say each time you would like to supply three different values, you know, through the keyboard. Then you can go for before method, because before method it executes every time before the test method starts execution. So you can supply such values. So it's possible. It's possible. Or load a file. Let's say you may need to load a separate file for each test. You may need to load a separate file for each test. So in that case also, you see, you can use before method. And you see, connection object is the example, best example for before class, which has to be established once. Let's say, as part of testing, we may need to interact with the database, for suppose. In that case, you know, you'll require that a database connection once. That code you'll write it in the before class instead of before, because it executes once before your test case methods start execution. Okay, before only once in the beginning, once it executes, you can write that code. And once your test methods finish execution, the after class method will be invoked, which you can use to close a connection which you have acquired in before class method. That's it. Okay, fine. So the last thing which I got here is test suite. The very simple and straightforward test suite or test suite. People pronounce it in different ways, suite or suite, whatever it is. Yeah. So test suite is nothing but test suite is a collection of test cases. Test case means, you know, a class in which you got that test method. Now you see, you may have several test cases, multiple test case classes. Now we can group them together. Okay, if you want to execute them, or or you can have related test cases, you would like to group them. This is something like a packaging concept. Generally we use a package to group similar classes together, right? And here as well, you see, in this case, in this example, we'll do the same. So not in this example, that means in JUnit also, we can group similar test cases together using test suite, and then we can execute them. Okay, yes. So for suppose now here, I got another test case. So just let me quickly define a simple test case here. So let's say for that, I need to do this. Select the package, select the class which you want to test, right click on it, and you got this JUnit test case option, right? And here I'll call this test case as sample test. Let's say I would like to test this add method, click on finish. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll move this test case class to this test method, test package. Now you got this arithmetic test. And sample test. So we got two test cases here. Now I would like to group them together so that every time I can execute them at once. That means you may have 10 test cases in a project. Now I would like to, out of 10, I would like to group these two test cases together. Okay, yes. How will you do that? See, for that we need to create a test suite. Let's see how to create a test suite. You see, I'm selecting this test package here. I'll right click on it, and you got new option here, new. Go to others. Under the others, you should see Java option. Java. Under the Java, you should see JUnit. Under the JUnit, you will find JUnit test suite. Okay, JUnit test suite. Right click on it. That's nothing here. Very simple and straightforward. Right click on it. You'll find new. Go to others. Under the others, you try to locate Java. Under the Java, you'll find JUnit. New others, Java. Under the Java, you'll find JUnit. Under the JUnit, you got this JUnit test case. Yeah. So select this JUnit test suite. I'm sorry, not test case, JUnit test suite. Hope everyone got it. Right click on the package, test package. You got new. Under the new, go to others. Under the others, you should see Java. Under the Java, you'll find JUnit. Under the JUnit, you have this JUnit test suite wizard. So this test suite wizard will help us to create a test suite. Okay, select this wizard and click on next. You see the class name test with class name all test is all test. But you can give any name, need not be all test. Okay, the test suite is also a class itself, Java class itself. Okay, you can give any name. Now it is asking us to include all the test cases which you want to group them together. As of now, I got only 2 test cases. I would like to group them together. Okay, so just check them, select them. That's it. Okay, you got it, all of you. So you have to specify the class name for the test suite, and then you see it will the Eclipse ID itself. You see this wizard itself will list down all the test cases which you got here in this project, and it will ask you to select which test cases you want to group them together. Okay, you can select them, and then you can click on finish. Now you see we got this test suite class, and we got this annotation on top of this class called as @run with suite.class. Suite.class, it indicates that it's a test suite. This annotation here itself, it indicates that it's a test suite. Now we got this annotation suite classes, and what are the classes which you want here under this test suite? The group of classes which you got, which you want to add here to this test suite. Okay. So now by default, you see if I select the project and right click on it, you see you'll find run as JUnit option. So it will run all the test cases. You may have 50 test cases, it will execute all the test cases. But now we got a test suite where we have grouped a set of test cases together, right? Now you can just select that particular test suite, right click on it, and you can use this option run as JUnit. That's it. Okay. Don't worry. So in one of the test cases, we got a fail method which will fail the test case. Don't worry. Altogether, the test method, how many test methods have executed here? Five. You see, the test method which you got in the arithmetic class, it executed four times, and the test method from the sample class has executed once. Altogether, five test methods I can say. Yeah. So is it clear for you people? Grouping several test cases together. Okay. Okay. So if it is clear, then I'll stop it here today. Okay. Yes. Okay, Rakesh, that's good to hear. Yes, that's great. Okay, fine. So um, now we got the people from two batches here. Uh, People who are attending the morning class. Like Lokesh, Manasa, Ravali, Ravali and Vidya. So for you people, there is no morning class. Okay, Monday morning there is no class for you people. So the people whose names I've read out, your morning class, US time morning class. Hope you got it. Vidya, Ravali, uh, Manasa, Lokesh. So you people, for you people, there is no morning class. So we'll meet on Tuesday morning again. Your time, Tuesday morning at our regular time. Okay, it's US morning time. And for you people, others from the evening batch, yes, rest of the people, Anuradha, Karthik, Kiran, uh, Rakesh, Sid, Sriram, Shruti, Varun. So I'll inform you in a short while. Okay. So by tonight I'll mail you people whether you'll have a class tomorrow or not. Okay. By morning you'll get the mail. Tomorrow morning you'll get a mail whether you'll have it tomorrow evening's class or not. Okay. Yeah. Okay then. Thank you all.